Midnight Facts for Insomniacs. I just learned something. Oh, I'm having fun now. The number of people in his kingdom, or his little fiefdom, probably was in the tens of thousands. It was a mid-size. It was a reasonable size.
Yeah, it was a good size, and not that way you ladies mean.
That's right. It was a perfectly adequate amount of koku. It's not the motion of the koku. It's anyway. All right, we're back.
Yep.
After I've had an injury.
Yeah.
It feels like a long time. It's really just the normal amount of time between episodes.
Right.
But this feels like a much longer time than normal.
We packed a lot in.
Yeah, a lot has happened. Nothing good, really.
No.
I'm doing better now. I don't have the brace on,
Yeah.
which feels good.
Yeah.
It might not feel good later because I don't have the brace on now.
No.
These are short-term benefits,
Long-term losses.
Yeah. But I did enjoy the last episode, and so we're doing volume 2 of our Revenge series. Last time, we did a very tabloid-esque, kind of exploitive type situation.
Very Sun.
And I told you we'd go more classy.
Do we do class?
We kind of are. Yes, we're going to because, and you know what? It's your fault.
What?
It's your fault that we're being classy.
These are lies.
Well, okay. I asked you last time if you knew of any classic tales of revenge.
Yes.
And you basically said, you mostly said no. But then you came up with a couple.
Okay.
Do you remember what you brought up?
I mean, I brought up several. There could be the 47 Ronin or whatever the fuck it is. And
That's the one.
Okay, in one. That was rare for me. I usually fail these tests.
I think I was confusing it with the movie The Seven Samurai, the Kurosawa film.
Yeah.
But this is a totally different story. And honestly, I think way more interesting, like quantifiably. There are like 40 more people involved. So it's a
bigger
more
cast.
It's like a sequel, bigger, longer,
better, stronger,
uncut,
thicker, wetter.
So I'll let you explain what a Ronin is.
Okay.
I do know.
Yes.
I promise.
Sure. A Ronin is a quote-unquote masterless samurai.
Yeah.
It is someone whose daimyo or warlord has been killed in battle or somehow defeated, and he has been denied the right of seppuku to save his honor.
Sure. So Ronin aren't really any different from samurai. They have all the same training.
Yeah.
They're just previous samurai. They're unemployed samurai.
Yeah.
Or you could say they're samurai without a boss, which sounds kind of better.
Okay.
I always prefer it to be self-employed.
It's like being self-employed, only like a drug dealer in modern times. No one really respects you, but you are self-employed.
That's the problem, is that there's a lot of prejudice against not having a master, which I don't know, that's weird.
Only to you from the West to do that.
I guess the issue is that like a self-employed samurai is basically just a murderer.
Yep.
If you're not employed as part of an army or a security task force, you're just like killing people. That's just homicide. But it turns out that this story about the 47 Ronin, this is the most famous story in Japanese history. It's known to every Japanese person.
Kind of like, Custer's known to us or other sort of historical things are known to us. But yeah.
Sort of like that. There's really not a story that we all know the way that 47 Ronin is known. There's an entire art form in Japan that just consists of depictions of this story.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
We'll get to that in a second. I don't think that there is an equivalent in America. I think we would think of maybe Custer's Last Stand. We would think of the Alamo.
Billy the Kid. Like we have mythos in America, but we're so young that we didn't have time to really build it. Best we have is the Wild West. Everyone knows it, and everyone can at least reference like one or two things that happened in that time period. But that's the best we've got.
Yeah, I guess there is American mythology to some extent. But the big difference is that this is so ingrained in Japanese society that like everyone knows the details of this story.
Yep.
And I just don't think we have anything like that in America. Washington crossing the Delaware. I know that. I know the image of it. I don't know why he was crossing the Delaware. Why did he need to get, he had to get to the other side. He was like the chicken. I don't know. He had to get to the other side because of freedom.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to row or anything. He was just going to stand there looking important.
Of course.
And that's, so, I know the story.
Sure, toy.
But
clearly.
I think I'm proving my own point here. No one knows. No one knows what happened there.
I don't know, so no one knows.
Not a single human. No, we all just know the image.
Yep.
I'm kind of tipping my hand here. We'll get into more of it. But that is one thing I find fascinating about this story is just how much of a national narrative it has become for one country.
Yeah.
And the fact that I didn't fucking know anything about it. So I feel like an idiot.
I ween. It's rare.
Even though we went to Japan and visited many of the places where all this stuff happened.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, one of the nice things about this being as popular a story as it is that there is no shortage of material to pull from for this episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to play you the opening monologue from a movie. This is the historical epic 47 Ronin, starring Keanu Reeves. And this will give you an overview of pretty much everything you need to know about Japan at the time.
Ancient feudal Japan, a land shrouded in mystery, forbidden to foreigners. A group of magical islands home to witches and demons. A nation of rival provinces whose lords were ruled by a shogun, whose will is absolute. Peace in the realm is kept by the samurai, master swordsmen, tasked with protecting their lord and their province at all costs. Should a samurai ever lose or fail his master, he suffers the greatest shame in all Japanese society. He becomes a Ronin.
I mean, if he's not allowed to commit suicide afterward.
And yet to know the story of the 47 Ronin is to know the story of old Japan.
That's pretty sweeping.
That was 100% accurate.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we even need to do this episode now.
We're done.
That covered most of it.
Witches and demons, which obviously are real.
I don't want you to scoff. This is how it happened.
Yep.
I get all my research from Keanu Reeves movies. That's mostly...
You even learned how to drive from Speed. It's dangerous.
I'm an amazing driver. I'm an amazing assassin. I'm a pretty good surfer.
Yeah.
Skydive. And I know Kung Fu. Those are... Enough silliness.
Yes.
That movie, I did watch it.
Yes.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you why not. It's not a good movie.
No, it's not
Don't-
great. You didn't like the pigeon monks, which give magical swords?
I don't remember any monks shaped like pigeons.
Well, they were bird-like monks, and they gave this magical swords that could cut through anything.
You know what? I didn't pay attention that much.
Clearly.
There was a point where I tuned out.
Yeah.
It started like 5 minutes in.
Oof.
And then I think I tuned back in when I noticed credits. And that was relief. That was the relief moment. I also watched a couple other movies. There's a 2-part series, I guess, from the 1940s. It's called, appropriately, 47 Ronin. It sticks very closely to the conventionally accepted narrative.
Okay.
I didn't find the Keanu Reeves movie to be a lot of fun. This was significantly less than that.
Yikes.
Yeah, no demons. It would have benefited from some demons. Maybe, and also like some camera movement. They hadn't figured that out yet.
Well, it's the 1940s, bro.
They would just put the camera there, and then they would just all look at each other for long periods of time, and then say some things, but not a lot of things, not enough things, and then they didn't do many things. They didn't even show. This is a 4-hour epic almost with the 2 parts.
Yeah.
They didn't show the attack on the castle or anything because they didn't have like
special
effects.
Yeah.
No. And I'm kind of upset that I did. I don't know why I felt the need to like power through, but it was an act of will at some point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the sunk cost fallacy at some point kicked in.
The true story is actually really interesting, but I think you have to tell it correctly.
Okay.
So there are really 3 major players in this story.
Okay.
And then, like 40-something.
Other players.
Yeah. But we're going to focus on the most important 3 because I ain't got time for all that shit.
Got it.
The short version of the story is that an old rich guy and a young rich guy got into an argument.
Beef.
The young one ended up dead.
Yep.
And then one of the young rich guy's employees convinced 46 of his coworkers to take revenge on the old rich guy.
Okay.
And then everyone in this story dies, just by the way.
Well, yeah,
like
that's most Japanese stories.
Is that really?
Yeah. Especially back then, because death was a lot.
I mean, that's all stories in life.
Okay, Frenchman.
But they died early.
The story is shit. I will summarize. Everyone dies. Where's my cigarette?
So it all starts in Japan's Edo period.
Okay.
That lasted from around 1600 to the late 1800s, couple hundred years.
Yeah.
And this is when the seat of Japanese power began to move from Kyoto, where the emperor resided, over to Edo, which is Tokyo, where the shogun resided.
Yes.
So this is when the power went from basically a figurehead. The emperor was kind of like the king of England is now.
Yeah.
It's just irrelevant. Wealthy, but useless.
Right. If he says some shit, the populace is going to go, that's what should happen. But then the shogun, they're going to be like, yeah, sure. But we'll do this, really.
Even the shogun had to sort of pay lip service to caring about the emperor.
Right.
And that will play a part in this story. So the shogun ruled from Edo, from Tokyo, over a bunch of, you called them daimyo?
Daimyo, yeah.
No, it's not daimyo?
Pronunciation, I might just be whitening it up.
Okay. Over these lords. And the lords presided over some samurai. They basically had an army.
Yep.
And it was very much like feudal Britain. There was basically a king, that was a shogun. There were some lords, those were the daimyo. And then there were the knights, and those were the samurai.
Yep.
Now, just like knights in England, the samurai were pledged to their lord, and it was supposed to be a pretty intense bond.
Yeah.
Loyalty was very important in Japan. And so, as mentioned in that 100% accurate demon-infested narrative, if the samurai fell out of favor with his lord, or if the lord was killed, or fell out of favor with the shogun, then the samurai was actually expected to commit seppuku, to commit ritual suicide. If he either wasn't allowed to do it because, like, punishment, or he refused to do it, then he was disgraced.
Yes.
And it was very embarrassing to be alive.
Man, you don't get to kill yourself.
Now, that is the popular conception. It wasn't always like that. I mean, a lot of times samurai did end up switching sides, and a lot of times were welcomed by the other lord. They're like, hey, we'll just forget about the rules because I need some more dudes who are trained.
You killed a lot of my guys, which means you can kill guys good, meaning you're on my side now.
Yeah, exactly. Or, it was opportunism. So that happened a lot. This romantic ideal, I don't know why it's romantic, but the idea of like everyone killing themselves all over the place wasn't the reality.
Roses, chocolates, and stabbing guts. Yep, very romantic.
But it was a time when there was a lot of, cutting your own guts out. I could live with being disgraced. I think I'll just get a new job. I've always liked fishing. I'll be a fishmonger. I'll be a monger of anything rather than dying.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if anyone would buy from a ex-Ronin style dude.
Well, a lot of these people did. So, there were still Ronin, and they had to make a living, and some of them would become fishermen, or it was always like a blue-collar work or whatever.
Right.
You could get them for cheap because they didn't have any options.
Yeah.
So the year 1701, the real power in Japan had shifted to Tokyo, where the powerful shogun Tokugawa Tsunayoshi ruled at the time. You might know him as the Dog Shogun.
I don't, but cool. I didn't even know that was a name for him.
I actually got really excited when I heard about the Dog Shogun.
Yeah.
Because I immediately pictured like an Air Bud situation.
Oh, yeah.
Sadly, no. And it wasn't a dog in full regalia, which would have been pretty sweet.
Kimono dog.
It was instead a shogun who really liked dogs. He loved a dog.
A good Berk?
Many a dog. Not in that way, I don't think.
Wow, you had to go
there. The
historical
historical record isn't clear on this. I looked into it.
Did he love dogs or did he love dogs?
So he was born in the year of the dog, and he was a Buddhist and had kind of studied under a Buddhist monk, I guess. And this Buddhist monk had impressed upon him the importance of respecting all life. And also, I think, telling him that he had been a dog in a previous life mattered.
Okay.
But he did seem to care about kind of all animals other than human animals.
Gotcha.
I very much identify with this guy.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. He enacted a bunch of laws, all these edicts, over 100. It started out kind of pretty basic and like reasonable. I think they were all fairly reasonable, but it got more extreme over time.
Okay.
So he started with things like when the shogun is in town, you don't have to leash your animals and like hold on to them.
Oh.
Because that was the thing that the shogun's coming, put our dogs away or something. He's like, no, I want to see your dogs. I want to pet the dogs, damn it.
Yeah.
So that's totally reasonable.
That's Shane all over, right?
Edict. Yeah. Then there were ones where like no animals could be leashed at all. He didn't want any leashes, which then you just had dogs running crazy. Sometimes you got to, and also cats too. It said the cats can't be leashed, which 90% of the time I'm down with.
Yeah.
But if you're going to take your cat for a walk, put it on a fucking leash.
Yeah, because then that's not a walk. That's a runaway and hide
Because
somewhere.
then you no longer have a cat.
Yeah. That cat went back into the cat distribution,
Yes.
facility. And now it's someone else's.
So these edicts, oh God, I can't say this word. It was, Shoruai Wairaminori.
Yep. Nailed it.
That's what it's called. And that's the Edicts on Compassion for Living Things. And if you're Japanese, what are you doing listening to this podcast? We're idiots. We're American idiots.
You were killing the names so far. I was really impressed. But I was like, he's going to run up against one that he's just not
That's
getting.
the longest word ever.
Yeah, so break it up into 3 and 4 letter chunks. And that's usually how it goes as characters.
Shoru Ayaware Minorai.
Probably closer.
Yeah, no, that was bad.
Okay.
So these edicts kept coming and kept getting more strict. And this happened over the course of like 20 years. And eventually he was moving into sort of PETA territory where you understand the point behind it, but also like it was getting a little draconian.
Yeah.
So for instance, he outlawed leather for a while, which they didn't have vinyl.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of options.
How do you make fucking armor without the leather? Right?
Yeah. He would allow leather in certain circumstances, I guess. But for a lot of things, probably like if you're poor, you can't have leather was probably what it was. He forbid the sale of live animals that were going to be slaughtered. So you could only like slaughter something and then sell it dead, but you couldn't sell it alive and then have the other person kill it. But that's weird because like, what if I want to buy a live chicken and grow it into a larger, meatier chicken and then kill it? But no, it's like, it's got to be dead before you get it.
And also, how in the fuck would you know? You're like, nah, this is going to be my pet 3 goats, 4 chickens, and 4 buffalo. No, they're just my pets now. Where'd they go? Died plague.
Bessie was sick when I got her.
Yeah.
They didn't actually, I don't think they had any cows.
Yeah.
Bessie doesn't. You can get me Bessie the pig.
Yeah, sure. But either way, yeah, how would you test it? You would have to have like, you know, roaming pet inspectors. You got Ace Ventura just all up and down Japan.
I think they just assumed that if you were selling chickens, it probably wasn't as pets. But if you love animals, anything can be a pet.
Yeah.
This is my pet salamander, Squirmy. Not a lot of meat on those. So I guess you could probably sell a salamander. They'd be fine with that. So there were some other rules. He forbid anyone from training animals for performances, which I do like that. So there's no circus bullshit.
Okay. You know, like 1 or 2 peasants had like a really cute, one of those little like, the Doge meme dog, that type of dog.
Shiba Inu.
Yeah. Like you guarantee one of those was just wandering around next to its master and just sat down and did its little paws thing. And he's like, you trained it. And killed the guy. No, I didn't. He just does that.
Yeah. Like what if the animal is just, naturally expressive?
Yeah.
He does backflips. That's his thing.
What the fucking put my head back on.
So he also banned hawking. The practice of flying hawks. And
Otherwise known as falconry, but yes.
Okay, yeah, that. Which seems like a good thing to me. The thing I don't like is the hooding of the bird because you have to keep it blind, basically.
Well, right, because you've trained it to, once the hood comes off, it's game the fuck on.
I object even just on fashion grounds to this. I do not support hats on birds.
Okay.
Just in general.
Okay. What about the little hands on birds?
Hands on birds?
Yeah, with the YouTube videos where they're running around, they got hands and they're...
Oh, yeah. I like when they draw hands on them. Yeah, that's cool because then it's,
We're idiots. What the fuck are we doing?
So in general, I like this guy. I'm pretty supportive of his edicts for the most part. I mentioned 3 important people.
Okay.
He wasn't one. That was a
motherfucker.
tangent.
We did just go on a 40-minute tangent about this dude didn't matter.
That was interesting, though. I like it.
Yeah, it's fair.
Can't not talk about a guy called the Dog Shogun.
All right, it's fair. It's fair.
So 3 important people. The first one was a young lord, a young daimyo named Asano Naganori. He was from Western Japan, actually relatively close to Kyoto, the seat of not power. But during the Tokugawa period, daimyo were actually required to spend every other year in Edo under a system called Sankin Kotai. And their families were often kept there near the shogun's castle. They were basically like low-key political prisoners.
Oh, absolutely. Not even low-key. Everyone knew.
Yeah. It was very obvious what was happening. But I'm sure they didn't say that. The shogun was just like, I would appreciate the honor of your company all the time, where I can see you.
And are near my blades.
So this kept the daimyo submissive and loyal to the shogun.
Yeah.
It was basically like, it would be a shame if something unfortunate were to happen to your family.
You got a nice family.
Send rice. Lots of rice.
Send rice. Nice. Otherwise known as ryo, which was their ancient coinage, and it represented bales of rice.
Yeah, and in fact, we'll get into that, but there's that was how these daimyo were valued. It was like you were valued based on how much rice you could produce, and then how much of that went to the shogun.
Bokdoi.
So Asano was in Tokyo/Edo. He was doing his service there when the word came down that some envoys from the emperor were going to arrive for a ceremony. And this was kind of a high-pressure situation because even though the emperor didn't have any power, he still had stature and influence.
Right.
So Asano was assigned the role of arranging and organizing the reception for these envoys. And then he would have to oversee all the ceremonies that were happening and all the kind of make sure that everyone was observing the protocols, which was ironic because he didn't know any of the protocols. He was from the countryside.
Right.
He was from far away. He wasn't like he was a country mouse. And so they quickly realized, or maybe they already knew this, and this was kind of a thing that happened a lot, but they realized that he was going to need some help. And so he was assigned a handler who worked at the palace, and it was his role to teach people protocol.
Okay.
This guy was he was a mid-level, he was like middle management.
Yeah.
He wasn't important, but I'm sure this was his chance to be important.
Yeah.
Because this was a high-pressure situation. If these guys fucked up, off with their heads. I just always think of like Alice in Wonderland. There's a lot of like off with their heads energy.
Yeah. No, that aura is real strong. And I believe that he sounded like this. Yeah. I'm going to need you to start with the fork at the outside and work your way
Yes,
in.
it was very Pretty Woman. Count the times. The problem, though, was that Asano, he was very rough around the edges. Like, again, he was country mouse. And he was about 34 years old. He was young. This guy, Kira, who was his handler, he was 61 at the time.
Okay.
Which you think would be old enough to kind of not be an immature dick who abuses your power. But I guess you never grow out of that. Once an immature dick, always you get it.
You can't outgrow little dick energy. It just stays with you.
Literally.
Yeah.
So Asano came from Akko. That was a medium-sized coastal fiefdom that was rated at about 50,000 koku. And we mentioned how these daimyo were valued. 1 koku was the amount of rice that it would take to feed a single person for a single year. That's not how many people he had in his kingdom, obviously, because a lot of that went to the emperor, a lot of that went to the shogun. But the number of people in his kingdom or his little fiefdom probably was in the tens of thousands. It was a mid-size. It was a reasonable size.
Yeah. It's a good size, and not in that way you ladies mean.
That's right. It was a perfectly adequate amount of koku. It's not the motion of the koku. It's anyway.
You're just fucking this all up.
But for contrast, the Maeda clan, Maeda, Maeda, of Kaga domain, that was the wealthiest of the outside of the Tokugawa shogunate. They were like 1 million koku family.
Holy fuck.
Yes. So my point is, he was a young, unrefined daimyo and not at all an expert in court protocol, and also not like super receptive. I think he was a little bit embittered about having to do this shit.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, it sucks. I don't want to have to host a fucking party and like be Miss Manners all of a sudden.
I don't know none of y'all. I don't know your fucking rules. You could have just left me in my tiny fiefdom and my people would prosper and you could leave me the fuck alone.
Just let me take my family and go back to the freaking village.
Yeah, I ain't going to start any shit. I only got 50,000 people. Fuck off.
So his handler, Kira Yonaka, this is where we go, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, baby dick energy. I remember.
Because he's very much portrayed as the mustache twirling villain.
Oh, nice. Okay.
In all of these. The reality is probably a little bit different. He was an opportunist. He had expectations that he would be taken care of. It's like, I'll scratch your back kind of situation. I'm showing you all of the protocols. That's my job. Your job is to like grease my palm a little bit. And I don't think he was doing anything that other people in the court didn't do. I think he was an enthusiastic participator in court shenanigans, is how I would describe him.
An enthusiastic representative of graft.
Yeah, and I think the problem was that Asano just wasn't having that shit because he wasn't used to like palace intrigue and everything.
Yeah.
He was just like, this is bullshit and I don't want to have to do it.
Right. I'm already firmly on young dude's side.
I see both sides because I do think that if you grow up within this palace environment, you have expectations. And also part of your job is to like teach them the ways of the palace. And one of the ways of the palace is like, you got to bribe. That you got to do it. And if you're not bribing me, then you're not going to bribe the other people that you need to be bribing. And they're going to fucking off with your head.
I wonder if there was actually ever a conversation between those two like that. Like, dude, I get it. You don't know what's going on. I'm going to help you. But that doesn't sound like little dick energy. That sounds like big dick energy is like, you don't get it. I know, but this is the way of the emperor.
There definitely wasn't because, and you know this, because everything is protocols and everything is 5 layers of politeness in between the thing that you really want to say.
Right.
So everything's implied, everything's passive aggressive.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that like subtext, there was that being conveyed by Kira, but I don't think Asano was picking up the wavelength.
Yeah.
Because he just wasn't tuned into that as well as Kira was.
Early spectrum. He's like me. He just didn't get it. He's like, why are we talking about this?
The story goes that Kira was actually assigned to 2 daimyo, Asano and another guy named Kamai Korachika. And right off the bat, he was being kind of rude and inhospitable to both of them. And again, I think this is because he was conveying, you have not bribed me yet, get on with it. And he expected them to understand that. Now, in the story, the other daimyo, Kame, he was as offended as Asano was and got real close to doing what Asano would eventually do. But he was saved by his handlers. There were people around him who did understand a little bit more about the court intrigue. They provided a bribe, and then all of a sudden, his life got a lot easier.
Weird.
But this was bad for Asano because now he was kind of standing out like a sore thumb because the other guy had done the quote-unquote right thing.
Right.
And so now I think Kira was getting a little bit annoyed. He was like, look, other dude did it.
Yeah, your boy caught on. Why are you slow?
Yeah, so I think he started picking on him a little bit harder. And this is where, again, I think you could potentially blame Asano for this a little bit because he really dug in. Like, he saw what was supposed to happen. I think his handlers were telling him the same thing. And everyone was letting him know, if you get pissed off enough, you're only going to hurt yourself. Because I don't know if you knew this, but you're not allowed to even show a weapon, pull out a weapon in the shogunate palace.
Yeah.
That is punishable by death. I don't know why they didn't just confiscate the fucking weapons.
They did eventually, but that came later.
This is probably why. Because, like, letting people walk around with their goddamn swords and daggers is just not going to work out well. Someone's going to pull it out.
Well, it's also a problem when you have an entire class of people who view their blades as their souls. So they have to, you can't just walk around without your soul. It's just weird.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's like, which is why it came to, in the other samurai movie, the Tom Cruise one about Last Samurai, that was around the area, the era where they started outlawing samurais to be able to walk around with swords. You weren't allowed to do that anymore. And so, yeah, man. But either way.
It's hard to tell someone just keep your soul in your pants, bro. Just keep it sheathed.
I'm going to pull it out. I have to. I'm so angry, I got to whip it out.
I could understand letting them hold on to it.
Yeah.
But if they're that emotionally invested in something, they're probably not going to have a lot of restraint when it comes to using it. Yeah. So this all came to a head when Kira insulted Asano one time too many. He's a habitual line stepper, and he stepped right over that line. And the line that he crossed was he called him basically the Japanese equivalent of a country bumpkin.
Oh.
He's like, you're a filthy hick. And Asano was like,
Nah, bruh.
And like, that's rude, but also maybe not something that should like get you attacked with a knife.
Insults are only ever as powerful as you worried that they're true.
Yeah.
Probably worried he was a country bumpkin.
That's interesting. I think that the things that offend us the most are the things that we're most sensitive about because we fear that they may be true. And I think he was ill at ease in the palace and already felt out of place and already was embarrassed about it. And then getting called out for it was just too much. So he had on him a sword, a smaller, I think it was more of a large dagger, essentially.
Wakezashe.
And in the great corridor of pines at the castle, a very beautiful area, I take it, he pulled out his soul and attacked Kira. He cut his face a little bit and then was immediately incapacitated. The guards were like, nope. So it was a very pointless act of stupidity.
Yeah. I've been there. I punched him. I feel better. Shit, I feel worse.
Yeah. Now, as he struck, Asano reportedly called out these words. He said, quote, "This is for the grudge I've had against you." I kind of love that. It's so applicable to so many times. I'm going to use that constantly.
Yeah.
If someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm going to pull in front of them. And then I'm going to, instead of sticking my finger out the window, I'm going to yell, "This is for the grudge I have against you."
Nice.
It's so descriptive. It's so like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. Oh, that's why he did it.
Yeah.
Got
It all makes sense. So news of the assault was quickly reported to the dog shogun, who responded by turning around 3 times before laying down and licking his testicles.
These are lies.
Shogun Tsuneyoshi, he heard about the assault. He immediately ordered Lord Asano to commit ritual suicide.
Yep.
To commit seppuku. Asano was allowed to write the traditional death poem. That is something that many samurai would do. They would make note of their last final Poetic thoughts.
I wouldn't have many poetic thoughts. My death one would be like, fuck that guy, he deserved it.
It would be cursing and pleading on my end. I would go through all the stages of grief. Just, fuck you guys.
In that 17-syllable poem.
Please don't kill me. There'd be anger, there'd be bargaining.
Yeah.
There'd be no acceptance, though.
Yeah, it's not long enough. You couldn't get through acceptance in 15 syllables.
I'm not mature enough for acceptance of my own self-inflicted death. That isn't really self-inflicted if you're making me do it.
Yeah. I'm trying to do it like a haiku right now. I was like, this is some bullshit.
Counting on your fingers.
Fuck y'all. You all suck. Dickhead.
Mine would not be nearly that defiant. It might start out like for a couple lines and then it would just be like, please, 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 please. I have a dog. You can't, you know what? It would be secondhand abuse of my dog to murder me because he will miss me.
Yeah.
And I read the edicts, man. That's unacceptable.
You're kicking a dog secondhand.
But yeah, I would not be capable of artistry in this moment, and I don't think a lot of them were, to be honest. I've read a few of these death poems. I think it's very hard to grieve and panic and rhyme all at the same time.
Sure.
Which I don't think any of them rhymed anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. They weren't haikus, though. I always thought they were haikus. They were not. They're in the form of waka, which has 5 lines rather than 3, and the syllables are 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. In case anyone wants to know how to write an official suicide poem.
There's no way to say that coming off good, bro.
So I tried to get an exact translation of Asano's death poem, but apparently that's not a thing that actually exists at all because Japanese poetry is very subjective and difficult to translate. Here's the most common interpretation that I could find. Quote, more than the cherry blossoms, inviting a wind to blow them away, I am wondering what to do with the remaining springtime, unquote.
I mean, that's cool sounding, and I get some of the imagery.
He didn't have a lot of springtime left. He had like 45 minutes.
Right, and that's probably what he was thinking. He's that little cherry blossom blowing on that branch going, I mean, what am I going to do? It looks nice around it.
Well, this poem has been criticized over the years. Like, people consider it to be a pretty shitty death poem.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what your expectations are. Again, the man just received a death sentence.
Right.
And, like, this was also a first draft. He didn't have time.
I'm sorry. Could you hold on to that samurai sword real quick? I have a 7th draft here going.
You didn't get to, like, craft this piece of art and refine it. But anyway, apparently other samurai were able to do a better job, according to people who criticize death poems.
That is a certain level of art critic that just needs to get killed. Like, that's just fucked, bro.
Goth Siskel and Ebert.
Oh, my God. That is a great image. Somebody make that a shirt, please.
So I guess what people objected to was that most samurai poems are a little bit more like bold and almost celebratory. Just to give you a comparison and some contrast, the leader of the 47 Ronin, who would eventually be put to death, here's his death poem. Quote, oh, I'm so happy. I realized my desire and it is time to die. There is no cloud on the moon of my life.
Damn.
Different vibe.
He was just running headlong into that sword. Just woohoo!
This one just feels like bullshit. I mean, cool, but you're not happy to die. This is saving face. The other one felt at least like, I don't know, thoughtful. I do like, there is no cloud on the moon of my life. I wonder how many of these guys had some of these lines like locked and loaded. Did anyone pre-write their death poem? They wouldn't admit to it. I mean, it's a little dark to like, but the odds back then, you might as well have one ready.
And you were spending a lot of time on horseback going from place to place. So you had time to just be staring off of the hills going, fucking to wander through the sword trees. No. Yeah, I'm sure they could.
I don't know how much time he spent on, oh, I'm so happy, though. That feels improvised, I hope.
Yeah.
If you had like your entire 30-something year life and you just came up with, oh, I'm so happy. Oh, I'm unimpressed. So after his death, here's the kind of messed up part. Well,
this?
The second. Yeah, because not only was he, quote unquote, allowed to kill himself, his lands were confiscated, his family was cast out, all of his samurai became Ronin. Kira, the handler, he received no punishment at all other than that scar on his face, which actually would come back to haunt him. Foreshadowing. I was going to say he also received, I guess, some embarrassment, but he was a 61-year-old man. If anyone should be embarrassed, it's the guy who couldn't kill an unarmed senior citizen.
This is also fair.
Asano was like trying to protect his honor, but then he like missed. And it was a feeble effort.
Bad time to whiff.
Yeah, if you're going to die for it, at least get the job done.
I'm thinking of that meme from Fury Road. It's like, mediocre.
It was less than mediocre. It was frankly embarrassing. Now, I mentioned that Asano had not been a top-tier daimyo, but he still had over 300 samurai who had just become masterless. They quickly convened a meeting to figure out their next course of action. The meeting was led by Wishi Yoshio, and he initially suggested caution. He said, let's not resist. They're going to come to take everything. Do not fight back. Because at that point, he knew that it would be a failure. It would be an empty protest that would end with their deaths.
Right.
If they were going to die, they might as well do it after being successful.
Right. If you must sell your life, do it for a high price.
So most of the Ronin went along with this. A lot of them just accepted their fate. They had no interest in revenge. But some non-specific number of them did not. I think it was slightly less than 50. It was more than 40. It was somewhere between like 46 and 48. Somewhere in that range. Yeah. So even though Wishi had warned his fellow Ronin not to be rash, that was only because he knew that the shogun's forces were on high alert. There was no chance they were going to be able to take revenge.
Right.
His strategy, though, was not capitulation. It was patience. Along with the other 46 Ronin, he came up with a plan. They would bide their time, living as disgraced outcasts, until Kira and all the castle guards lowered their guard.
The guards lowered their guard?
Make them kind of bad guards, honestly.
I was going to stop being guards, bro. You're failing.
So the 47 Ronin dispersed, and they took up blue-collar jobs, carpenters and merchants. Like I said, you could still live, and they just laid low to avoid detection. There was basically a network of spies that Kira had employed, and he sent all the way over to Akko to keep an eye on them and see if they were stirring up trouble or just kind of gauge their pissed off meter. You know, he was like, "Are they
meter?"
Yeah, it was like, "Are they over it yet?" You know,
are you over your entire life being destroyed? No. Those spies, by the way, were known as shinobi.
Really?
Yep, that is the definition of shinobi. They were actually internal spies. They didn't all wear black. They would dress up as normal-ass people, and they would just wander around and have lives, but they would report.
Oh.
It was all espionage. That's what shinobi really were.
Well, they didn't have much to report because these Ronin were very committed to the bit.
Yep.
To the point where I don't know how much of this is like retconned. Because, well, Wishi himself basically spent 2 years cosplaying as a drunken buffoon. To the point that he even, like, his family broke up. He left his wife. According to legend, his wife knew the plan and had been willing to stay with him, but he didn't want her to be embarrassed and humiliated by his state.
Right.
And so he divorced her, which I don't know that made it look better.
Yeah.
But again, I kind of wonder how much of this is the, like, I meant to do this of people becoming drunks and leaving their wives.
Right.
It's like, no, that was all an act.
It's all part of the plan.
Yeah, like he might have just come to his senses after a couple of years or decided, can't get any lower, might as well like go on a suicide mission.
Yeah.
But no, let's say they were all in on it. So Wishi's wife took their children, except for his eldest son. By that time, this guy was a samurai himself. His name was Chikara, and he would be one of the 47 Ronin. He was 15 years old at the time of the raid. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a different time.
Yep.
Now, Wishi's drunken loser act was very convincing.
Oh, I'm sure.
At one point, he passed out drunk in the middle of the street on his way home from the bar or whatever, and he was reportedly struck and spat at by a passerby who was disgusted by his disgraceful condition and also the fact that he hadn't avenged his lord. And this guy made his feelings known and spit at him, and it was very embarrassing. He was probably also just annoyed that this guy was in his way because he fell down the middle of the street. The guy was like, dude,
Come on, bro.
Yeah. Pretty reasonable.
I mean, there's also the Celtic side of me. That's just a street nap. I mean, that's Irish all through and through. We do that shit all the time.
Just let the carriages and the horses solve this problem.
Yes.
If you
Wait 5 minutes.
step over him, someone else won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after 2 years, the Ronin felt confident that their act had worked. Or they just got tired of being
spit on.
Yeah.
You can only take so much phlegm.
And drunk.
Yeah.
They were like, all right. And maybe they sobered up once. And
Yeah.
were like, oh, hey.
Oh, fuck me. Is 2 years past? Really?
In the story, the idea is that they realized that Kira had finally called off his spies, called off the dogs. Not the dogs. They wouldn't. You can't have a dog with a job.
No.
That's
because that's
abuse.
training and that's abuse.
That's
We already
right.
covered this.
Yeah. Anyway, supposedly they decided it was time to attack. So on December 14th at midnight, in a whipping wind, the 47 Ronin gathered at the castle. And it's interesting to say that because that was like 400 miles from their home. This was an adventure.
Yeah, you got to think like 47 people in harmony going, and I would walk 400 miles.
Yeah, they probably didn't have horses because they didn't have a lot of money or anything. And they also didn't even have armor.
No.
They had improvised armor because it would have been very suspicious.
Half of a kettle.
I just totally imagined them holding like a trash can lid and a bucket on their head.
Yep.
But I'm sure it was better than that, but probably not a lot because again, if they had made or bought armor, it would have been really obvious that they were up to something.
Yep.
Plus they couldn't get leather anyway. So it's probably just sticks and leaves. I don't know.
Kettle samurai.
So when they got to the castle, Wishi instructed 4 of his men to scale the fence and enter the porter's lodge, and they captured and tied up the guard there. Wishi then sent messengers to all of the neighboring houses to explain that these guys were not robbers, they were retainers out to avenge the death of their master, and no harm would come to anyone. It was very polite of him. Although,
I say, around midnight tonight, we're going to do a lot of murder in the castle. Not you. You're fine. Just please stay in your homes, have some extra sake, and we'll be done in about 2 hours.
You're going to hear the sounds of slaughter.
Yes.
Just try not to panic.
Yeah, it's not directed at you. You're fine.
You're going to be fine. So miraculously, this is interesting, none of the 47 Ronin were killed during the raid.
Whoa.
They did murder like 16 or 17 of the guards and anyone who fought back. They were apparently very polite, and like if no one fought back, they didn't get killed.
Yeah.
But at least 17 people fought back and didn't work out well for them.
I'm just picturing like a guard roster of like 120, and just 103 of them were just looking around like... just not looking anywhere at the people running through with swords. Just like,
because there were a lot more than like 17 guards in there.
I'm sure.
So there was a lot of runaway action going on. And then...
oh, my shoe!
But hey, kudos to those people because they didn't end up one of the 17.
Yep.
Because everybody else got slaughtered.
Yep.
So these guys, they finally found Kira hiding in a woodshed. Now, they didn't know what he looked like because they hadn't been there when the whole original thing went down. And he would not identify himself, weirdly. They were able to identify him from the scar on his face.
Yep.
It would have been pretty bad to be a random dude who just had a scar on his face, which at the time,
right?
Again, the odds.
Yeah. Or you just gotten scratched by like a really heavy branch a day before, so it looks like a scar, but it's just healing.
But I think in that case, you would have just been like, I'm not Kira.
I'm pretty sure the statement, nah, that wasn't me, hadn't been invented yet. So he was, you had to be, it's either me or silence. Yeah.
So I cut him in the pine corridor. Wasn't me. That didn't work.
It didn't work, but it was a good effort. I hope you keep it in.
Oh, I'm looking at my notes. The Ronin actually still did offer to let him commit seppuku. They actually still, once they figured out who he was, even though he was sniveling, they were like, we're so nice and honorable and also maybe a little lazy. They just didn't want to do it. They're like,
we killed 17 people. Our arms are tired.
We're tired. Here's a sword. You fucking do it. I'd be like, screw you guys. You're going to at least have to do the work of cutting my damn head off. So they gave him the option of committing seppuku, and he didn't refuse. He just didn't do it. It was just not seppukuing, so they seppukued him.
I don't think you can seppuku someone.
The Ronin then extinguished all the lamps in the castle because everyone had like run and they didn't want the place to burn down. So this is all to explain how like nice they were.
Right.
And they were very respectful. They told all the people, they warned the people, and then they only killed 17
I
people.
mean, of the 120, just nice number.
I don't know that it was 120.
It was 120.
Got it. But it was, It's very interesting to me that this is portrayed this way.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were very courteous, other than the killing of more than a dozen people. And then they cut off Kira's head. That's courteous. Yeah. And then they carried it 10 kilometers across the city to Asano's grave in Sengaku-ji Temple. Also very respectful and courteous to parade a man's severed head through the town.
I mean, people want to see it.
Well, as you can imagine, 47 dudes marching through the street with a severed head caused a little bit of a commotion, so a lot of people did see it. The story of the revenge spread very quickly. Legend claims that many of the locals that they passed praised them and offered them refreshment. They were impressed by the fact that they had finally gotten revenge after all this time. That's how this has been interpreted.
Dude, that head looks really heavy. Want some sake?
Well, I feel like that's an interesting interpretation because this could also be very much a defensive strategy.
Yeah.
If I see
That motherfucker's got a head. Give him sake.
If I see 47 dudes carrying a severed head and they're coming my way, I'm going to praise them and offer them refreshment and any money that's in my pocket, and I will bow down very deep and wait until they pass.
Seems wise.
So on arriving at the temple, the remaining 46 Ronin, because they had sent one away, I'll explain that in a minute, they washed and cleaned Kira's head in a well, and they laid it, along with the murder weapon, before Asano's tomb.
Okay.
And then they offered prayers at the temple, and they gave the abbot of the temple all of the money that they had, asking him to bury them decently and offer prayers and requiems for them, because they knew at this point, they didn't need their earthly possessions. Yeah. They weren't going to be using them.
Yeah.
It took the authorities 6 weeks of debate before coming up with an appropriate judgment. Basically, they were deciding whether or not to execute them, which would have been disrespectful. It would have been a public embarrassment, or allowing them to kill themselves. 6 weeks is a long time. They had two options.
Yeah.
Dude, flip a fucking coin at some point.
How long were you in debate? How many of you were there?
Well, they did take a lot of input from the public. And the public was very much apparently in support of these guys, which again is interesting because here's the thing, and we can talk about this a little bit now and then we'll finish the story. But there really historically is not much justification for what they did, because the idea of taking revenge, it was very important as a samurai to avenge your lord.
Right.
If your lord had been murdered.
Right.
He was not murdered. He committed seppuku because he had attacked another unarmed man.
In the shogun's castle.
He had ignored protocol and broken the law and been punished for it.
Right.
That wasn't really revenge. It was like a crazy-ass raid where they killed 16 innocent people because they were pissed off. So it's interesting that they've been lauded. I think that the way Kira was portrayed historically has made this feel justified because, again, mustache-twirling villain. But if you look at just the facts of what happened,
right,
I can see both sides, but I certainly can't see a justification for killing 17 people. I think that's where I have a problem with it.
It sounds like a miscarriage of justice. Sounds like they just did some terrorist shit afterwards. But that's, again, Western view.
Yeah, it was very much a terrorist act. So the judgment finally came down. The dog shogun barked out his final orders.
Barker.
And he told them that they would be allowed to commit seppuku. Thus, 46 Ronin committed ritual suicide in March 1703, and this elevated them to the status of gishi, which was righteous samurai in popular memory, and their ages ranged from 15 to 77.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. You may notice that I mentioned 46. That was not a mistake. After the raid on Edo Castle, one of the Ronin, Terasaka Kichimon, he'd been ordered to travel to Akko, back to their hometown, to report that the revenge had been completed successfully.
Yeah.
And he eventually returned from his mission, and then he was pardoned by the shogun.
Whoops.
Yeah. So 47 Ronin exacted revenge, but only 46 would actually die for it.
It took so long, I'm sure, to travel 800 miles. People had fucking halfway forgotten. They were like, oh, right, you were one of those dudes. Fuck it, you can live.
Yeah, it's just strange to me. I don't understand what justification this guy comes back and they're like, oh, shit, we forgot about one. You're fine.
You, I remember you. Yeah.
Couldn't they have sent the fucking 15-year-old at least?
I mean, Jesus. Again, Western values. I don't know, yeah.
Messed up.
In my culture.
I think it's Eastern values as well. It's just the time. I don't think in Japan they're still cool with executing 15-year-olds.
I mean, no, I don't know.
So just to wrap it all up, I mentioned this story became super iconic, and every December 14th, thousands of Japanese people and also a bunch of tourists, they travel to the graves of the Ronin to pay their respects. A lot of people go to Akko. A lot of people go to the temple in Edo, where the head went, and Asano's grave was, and they, contemplate the past and read shitty death poems and good ones.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'd like to read a good death poem, unless they're all about like being really happy to die, which again, I don't think that's a good poem.
You're calling bullshit. I got it.
We have a new menace.
Yes! Changing the subject.
Or no, a minion.
Minion.
Dana Winslow. Dana being Danna. I think that's Dana.
Sure.
Maybe Dana.
Yeah.
With the
We're
extra
gonna go with
N.
Dana.
You have to pronounce the N longer. It's Dan.
Dana.
So thank you, Dana.
Yeah, Dana. Is that it?
That's it.
No reviews?
No.
Nobody loves us?
There are, again, we're getting a lot of comments in Spotify, which is great.
Yes.
And I don't read them here because they're on individual episodes, and a lot of them are on previous episodes. And it just feels weird to like, oh, and then this person had to say about this previous episode. I wish Spotify would just let people review the podcast instead of forcing them to review individual episodes.
Yeah.
But maybe I should bring some.
Maybe next time.
Sure.
Anyway, so please go to our Patreon. Give us a few monies, small amount, a coffee a month, and you can help us do more and greater things. We still have plans. We still really, really want to go and do the La Brea Tar Pit episode that we've been talking about for years now. We just need your help. So if you'll go to the Patreon and help us out there, spread the word, strap down a few of your relatives and friends to chairs and play our episodes back to back to back. I swear we'll eventually win them over. And then, as per usual, and forever after,
Knowledge is power.
sleep is overrated.